Okay. And we're live?
Yes.
Oh, good. So this time we're live.
I am not going to say what I said earlier.
Oh, thank goodness. Hi, everybody. We're already having a morning.
What?
I don't know what he got into this morning, whether he's already had too much coffee or maybe it's not enough. I don't know, but
Bit of both.
a bit of both.
5-kilometer hike helps.
Oh, is that what it was? 5Ks with the dog.
5Ks with the dog hurts.
And you're wiped, but she's not. She's still full of whiz and vinegar, and he's just being overtired and hyperactive and just...
I need a nap.
You need a nap. Yes, he needs a nap. And he's going to go for one as soon as we start painting. Please. I hope everybody's had a great week. It's been a busy one around here. We've had a couple of storms roll through. Didn't do a whole lot as far as snow, but we got some rain and some misery, and it was cold and just ick. It was just ick. I don't like that weather. So I spent most of it playing in the studio just because, the weather's icky. So if it's not nice outside and it's not sunshiny, then I'm going to be in my studio where it's always fun. And I have nice lights, so I can play and paint, which means that I got to play and paint this week, and I've got something really fun for you next week. We're going with a Southwest flavor for next Saturday, so be prepared for some really bold colors. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Something hot, something spicy, and just something more, I don't know, a little Tex-Mex, let's call it that. I think we need a little bit of heat and all this damp. And... How can you not love that face? I used to say that about my son. See, how can you not love that face? So we're going to be painting peonies in gold today. Peonies are a spring flower. Here it's in June. By the time we actually see a lot of the spring flowers, it's end of May into June. Because of where we live. But peonies are a beautiful spring flower. There's nothing more gorgeous than seeing those big heads of pink and white blossoms. And I'm being chewed on. Hey. So I thought it would be a fun one to do. And then I haven't done anything mixed media in quite a while. So I thought that this would be a nice change up. And I put it on a surface that could be either a standalone piece if you put it on a profile canvas or if you put it on a art panel. Or in this case, I used an MDF panel about 1/8 of an inch thick and made it into a frameable piece.
Is there a dog between?
Yes. Okay. Try to keep a straight face when there's a dog under your desk. Doesn't work. So we're going to be painting peonies in gold. Lots of fun with metallics, a little bit of fun with some gold foil and some adhesive. Of course, there's going to be a little stamping and a little stenciling, and we're just going to have some fun with this. And just play with a more contemporary look using the peony as our inspiration. So if you guys are ready to get started, so am I. Except I forgot something because I was being tortured by the dog. I forgot something. We have giveaways for today. And our giveaways this week are from Dynasty. And we have beautiful brush sets, Dynasty specialty brushes. We have black gold wave brushes. We have angles. We have flats. We have brights. We have a whole bunch of fun stuff. We have 3 sets of those to give away. Plus, we have some Tombow goodies to put in there just for fun. And, of course, we always tuck a few other little things in just because. So that is our giveaway for today. And I think that's it. I didn't forget anything, did I?
The dog has something.
The dog has something.
I see you.
The thrills never end. So this is the piece that we're working on today. This one here. This is Peony in Gold. I did take a little bit of time this week because I really enjoyed doing this particular piece. And, crash, bang. I did a mate to it. So I will get this one up on the website shortly. But it's the same techniques. I just changed up the flower slightly and did a little bit extra. Just changed the design slightly so that we have a nice mate to the Peony and Gold. So if you guys are ready to get started, so am I. So this is Peony and Gold. This one is just, there's a little bit of elegance to it. There's lots of textures and interest and pattern. And just overall, this is just a fun piece to create. So Peony and Gold. So I've prepped my surface, and the preparation for this is very simple. I've done just a base coat of black and then transferred my line drawing on, because from this point, we're going to be doing some stenciling and a little bit of stamping, and we're just going to have some fun developing a background to support this floral. So I'm going to start with my stencil. This is a 1/2 inch Harlequin. I love this stencil. I use this one quite a bit. I like the pattern. I like that the size gives you a really nice dimension in the background, gives you a little bit of movement. And because it has an elongated point, it actually helps draw the eye around the surface. So I'm going to tape this into place. Now, I don't want it to be just inside, because then it just looks like a square portion inside. So I always take it off the surface a little bit so that it gives that impression that the design or that particular pattern continues elsewhere. It just gives the finished piece a little more character and a little more structure. So I'm going to tape that into place. And the color that we're going to use is a little bit of 24 karat. This is DecoArt's Extreme Sheen, the 24 karat. I love this one. This is one of my favorite metallics, these Extreme Sheens. And you don't need a lot. And I'm using a 1/2 inch Dynasty Stencil Pro stencil brush. And I'm going to swirl that. You do not need a lot of paint on the brush, but you do need a little. And you're going to swirl it so that you get a nice even distribution, and then blot it on a piece of paper towel or shop towel. And the application is pretty simple. You're going to hold the brush straight up and down, and then work in a circular fashion, and remember to change directions frequently. Now, the fun part about this is you do not have to have these perfect. They do not have to be solid. In fact, it's better if they're not. We're just creating a little bit of metallic, just a little sparkle back there. Just a little. It does not need to be perfect. Now, I've got it so that I've got a fair amount of pattern to that one side, so you can see it's going over that way. I'm going to actually come down, bring a couple of rows down here, and I'm going to reposition this like so. And I'm going to do a little bit on this side, but I want it higher on one side than on the other. So I'm going to bring this one down by 1 or 2 diamonds, but I'm only going to come about this far, and I'm going to have a couple of incomplete diamonds. I don't want them fully solid. I want them to sort of break off a little bit, just like that. They don't have to be perfect, so that they just sort of fade out a little on this side. And then I'm going to come back over here to this side and line up my stencil, and then I'm going to put in a couple more solid, and then maybe one that's not, just like that. So I want this to come lower on this side than it is on that side. So it just sort of has this look of being slightly incomplete. Do you see how there's a couple of diamonds here that there's just hints of the shape? That's what we kind of want. That it just gives that look that it's kind of faded out a little bit. So that gives us that nice, it's an elegant look. And I think that's another reason I like the diamonds. There's just something about that finish that's just elegant. Now I'm going to use a script stamp. I can't find my other one, so I'm going to use this one. This one is from Tim Holtz. I do like Tim Holtz stencil stamps. I've got quite a few of them. And of course I have some cancellation stamps because I can't seem to paint anything without a cancellation stamp. So I've got my mini brayer and my script stamp, and I'm going to grab some warm white. I reorganized my paints this week. So give me 1 second here. I have to pull up my Facebook page. I'm batting 1,000 this morning. Here we are. So we're going to use the brayer to roll out some of that warm white and then load up the brayer like this. And I'm going to use the brayer to load the stamp. Now, the stamp is not going to be perfect. I really don't like using a stamp so that we get, everything everywhere. It just seems to me that it's a little boring. So I'm just using portions of the stamp to drop a little pattern in. I don't want it everywhere. And I am going to add a little more paint. I do love a script. There's just something about a script stamp that just adds an element of elegance to things. I think that's what it is. There's just this quiet, subtle elegance to things. So I'm going to push it. Oh yeah, I like that. There we go. And a little bit there. You can put it everywhere if you choose to. You don't have to. I want a little bit. So I think I'm happy with that. This is a little bright for me, but that's okay. We'll sort that out. And then I've got these cancellation stamps. In the original piece, the one I had a bumblebee in it, but the stamp, there was something wrong with the stamp, and all it ended up doing was smearing. So as cool as it was, it just didn't work as well as I wanted it to. So I'm going to, why can't I find anything today? Here we go. I wanted to see the chat. Renee's not here, so I wanted to be able to see it. Diamonds are a girl's best friend. I agree. I'm not big on diamonds. I love the shape. So I've got these two cancellation stamps. I think they're pretty cool. So I'm going to take this one off for the time being. I'm going to use this one. And I'm going to roll some paint onto that. I'm only looking for an element. And I rather like having one very clear stamp here. So that's why I was a little bit disappointed in my bumblebee stamp, because I smeared it. So I kind of like that. That one works for me. And then I'm going to do the same thing with some of the gold. Now I've got some other cancellation stamps. We're going to use these towards the end, loaded with gold, to do some finish work. So don't put those too far away. So I've got my cancellation stamps. I am going to put my little brayer into the water for the time being so that it doesn't dry on there. It makes it a little easier to get off. So we've got a little bit of stamping back there. We've got a little bit of stenciling back there. I really love how that looks. It's just a little shimmer. It's really pretty. So we're going to start building a little depth. And in order to do that, we're going to use an angle shader. and a little bit of lamp black. I'm going to clear my palette here so that we can oops, there we go. A little space to work here. So a little bit of lamp black, and I've got a 1/2-inch angled shader. I like the bigger brush for this in particular because it just gives us a nice wide float, and we're working in a larger area. Carol, the stamps actually are Tim Holtz. You can get them on Amazon, but my favorite resource for those is Stampers Anonymous. If you're going to do anything Tim Holtz, Stampers Anonymous is a great spot to do it. But they are readily available places like Amazon. So I'm going to put a float of lamp black around the line drawing with the darkest value towards the flower. We just want to set all of that background back just a little bit. We don't want to bury it, but we do want to sort of set it back a little, just to give it a little more depth. So just a little float of the lamp black, and you're going to work right over top of all of that stamping, over that stenciling that we've done. It's a nice little thin float. That little bit of black does wonders. It just softens the boundary between that gold and the flower. So if you need to come back in and deepen it, don't be afraid to do that. It's not going to hurt it. Now I'm going to get my juice on you. But it is twofold, especially over all of that white stamping, because it does stand out quite well. Is it sort of sets it back just a little, and it allows the floral to become the focal point. It just helps lift that floral as well. So don't be afraid to put, a nice deep float all the way around your line drawing. I'm a firm believer that a background doesn't have to be complex in order to be effective. And in this particular case, it's not complex. It has a bit going on, but it's not a complex one. We've only done 2 things to it. We've put some stenciling back there, and we've put a little stamping back there. And those 2 elements actually lend this a lot more interest without being overly busy. So we've got a few things going on back there, but it's not as much as you think. So that little float back there just, brings all of that floral forward. And I'm going to dry this real quick. Now, I probably have a dozen different script stamps laying around in my stash. Some are by Tim Holtz, some are from Stampendous, some are just dollar store ones. It's a script. It really doesn't matter which brand it is. I have certain ones that I'm particularly fond of, but that doesn't mean that it's the only thing you can use. So there we go. We've got our shading in, and once we start putting color onto this floral, then we're really going to see everything pop. And we're going to start with a little bit of warm white. I like to block everything in. And I do that with a fair amount of liquid in the brush. I'm going to use a round. Let's see if I find I need a new round. Mine is I think my round has seen better days. Now today I'm using faux squirrel and black gold. You'll probably see a water lily or two jump in there. But I've got a brand new, this is a number 5 round in Dynasty Black Gold. Nice brush. And then I've got this one, which is a number 1. So it's a nice small one for those little areas. And I'm using some Joe Sonia Fast Dry Glaze. I'm going to move that out of the way. And I'm going to bring my screen a little closer so I can see what people are asking. The background color for this one is just lamp black. I've got one coat on the whole surface. And then I put a band of painter's tape, just standard painter's tape along the edges. So it's leaving about a 1-inch gap. And that's what produces this effect. So it kind of squares it off inside and gives us a nice little border. I didn't want to do it across the bottom because I wanted the floral to continue. So I'm going with a little at the top. It kind of acts like a frame or a mat in sort of. So I'm going to use a little bit of Joe Sonia's Fast Dry, and we're going to thin some warm white. And quite thin. I wouldn't say it's watery. Still paint-like. But, and then we're going to base coat all of our petals with that warm white. And I'm pulling the color in the shape of the petal, so that all of the lines or brush marks all come to the one place. And then I'm going to leave a very narrow space in between each of those petals. Now, I like to do it this way because I absolutely detest retracing things. That's just one of those things that I really dislike doing. And so I like this little narrow space in between. It actually helps me with shading placement. It helps me with a variety of things. And the fact that I don't have to retrace my line drawings. So I'm just filling in each of those spaces with that thinned warm white. Now, if you're Canadian, I have to tell you something. These acrylic blocks, I got a full set of these at the Great Canadian Dollar Store for about $6. These acrylic blocks. I mean, that's the cheapest I have ever seen them anywhere. And they work exceptionally well. I've always found it funny that I could find them in a dollar store for half of what you'd pay for them anywhere else. So that thinned warm white does not have to be perfectly opaque. In most cases, I'm using just the barest amount of paint. Now the portion that I'm doing is on the interior portion of the petals. If there's a flip over, I leave it blank for the time being, because that's going to get painted in a little further along. And don't forget that narrow space. And when you're doing this, you're always thinking about the direction that the petal is going or the direction that the petal is curving. so that all of those brush marks come from either the center out or from the edge down in towards the center. It just makes your life a little bit simpler in understanding how that leaf is shaped and then how it's going to be handled a little later on. So I usually end up with a couple of coats of this thinned warm white, but I'm never really looking for full opacity. Not in this particular case. This is more of a mixed media piece as opposed to a decorative painted piece, although the end result is more arty than crafty, I like to think anyway. The only thing that I recommend when it comes to this is just take your time doing this base coat. Are most paints, this is a really easy way to add a frame, Dorothy, yes. When it comes to painter's tape, no, they're not all the same. There's two brands that I recommend, and I have reasons for both of them. Having worked in industrial finishing, there's two particular brands that I recommend for painters like us. And one is 3M blue safe release tape. You want the vinyl backed tape, which is the one that kind of feels like it's got plastic on the outside of it. There's a reason for it. That one is designed for water-based or latex paints. If it has what's called a paper backed tape, and you can tell the difference. One has a fairly rough texture. That one is designed primarily for oil-based paints and lacquers and enamels and things like that. If you're going to be using water-based paint, the 3M blue safe release tape is the one that I recommend. It's a medium tack. It's not a high tack tape, which means it's not quite as sticky. And then there is a methodology to removing tape so that you don't damage the surface that you're working on. And we're going to talk about that when it comes time to take this off. And the other tape that I highly recommend is this one. This one is frog tape. And I remember when this one first came out, I was at an industry trade show in Denver, Colorado. At the time, I was working for a commercial and industrial paint company. And, of course, things like this would interest us because we did a lot of commercial painting, finished work. We used to do sets and movie sets and stuff like that. And we also did a lot of refinishing. So tape was a big thing. It is part of our arsenal. So I went and watched the demonstration by the company that manufactures this frog tape. And it is a moisture activated adhesive, meaning that the back of the tape actually becomes stickier and seals at the edges the minute moisture hits it. So it was designed and developed specifically for working with water-based paints like latex and acrylics. And so I highly recommend that one. It's very durable. If you apply it properly, which means just lay it out and then burnish the edges, make sure that your edges are firmly in place, you're going to get great results. This tape works very, very well. 9 times out of 10, if I get bleeding or furring at the edges of something, it's because I made a mistake, not the tape. I either didn't burnish it well enough or, I was just being lazy for whatever reason or another. So 9 times out of 10, it's not the tape, it's me. So almost there. I'm really liking this white. Boys, everybody's here today. Bianca Cam, aloha from, I'm going to pound that one. Kailua? Kailua? Kailua. I'm going to go with Kailua. But aloha to you too. Thank you for joining us. Renee is a little preoccupied with maize today. She's become quite a handful. She's very high energy at the best of times, and for some reason today she is just ricocheting off walls. So she is in need of a lot of in hand. So you're stuck with just me for a while. Hi, Molly and Lori and Karen. Hi, Elsie. Yeah. So I'm almost there. I think I've got almost everything. Nope, missed one right there. I like this methodology of painting things in. So now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. Hello, my son. He's back. Is May sleeping?
No.
Is she occupied?
I don't know for how long.
Okay. I was just saying that she was pretty much ricocheting off walls today. She went for a 5K walk and still, for some reason, has lots of energy.
Still hungry.
And still hungry. She's a bottomless pit. Aw, Denise, thank you. That's sweet of you to say. She likes spending time with me. So I'm just filling in. I'll just quickly fill these last little bits in. And again, even on the small ones, I leave that little space. It does make things a little bit easier.
Beautiful dog. She is a beautiful dog.
She is beautiful. She's a handful, though. Guts to say. But she is a lot of fun.
She got an attitude.
Oh, does she ever? She does indeed have an attitude.
Where are Robin Storm, Lucy Matt, and Jessica Killeran? I don't know.
I don't know. Well, some portions of the United States had a major blackout yesterday. Some phone services and emergency services didn't work.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I don't know. Maybe some of those places still don't have service. I know internet was interrupted. AT&T apparently went down.
Oh, wow.
Which is huge when you stop and think about it. So, that was quite something.
My dog is bigger than your dog. Deb. Deb's got a Yorkie.
Yes. She has a pocket pooch.
In her head.
Yeah, in her head.
In her head.
Yeah.
Do you free feed Maze during these growing times? Haha, you can't fit through the door.
We have a cat door on the studio door. And for a while, Maze could fit through it, but now she can't. So now she's just got her head stuck through it, and she's letting us know she's not pleased.
She's not happy.
Yeah. Because we're down here and she's up there, and yeah, she's not happy. Poor puppy dog.
As for free feeding, no. Don't free feed a Malinois just because issues.
Oh my gosh.
She becomes very possessive of her food.
No, her feeding is actually quite controlled.
Yeah. And routine.
And routine, and very, even her treats are routine, so yeah. She doesn't get treats and goodies just because. Although sometimes when she's in the kitchen, it's hard to resist.
It's the face.
It's the face. Yeah.
And you could probably hear her whining and barking right now.
Yeah. It's those big browns. She doesn't like closed doors either.
I'll be back.
So, one of the biggest reasons that I use this method for blocking in color, putting the white down, I use it primarily on dark backgrounds. Anybody that's painted with me for any length of time is aware that I do like my dark backgrounds. I do vary them up from time to time, but I do like a dark background. And I also like bright colors. So I don't want whatever colors that I put on to be mousy and subdued. I like them to have that richness. And in order to do that, I need to have a nice light base for them. And so I put, even if it's just a little light wash, I put a little bit of white down. Because it just helps make things a little bit brighter. Keeps the colors nice and rich. So, and again, you don't have to worry about being absolutely perfect with this. Because one, it's an undercoat. Sort of an underpainting, if you will, where you base coat everything, but just with a thin layer of thinned warm white. It just helps keep the colors nice and bright and looking like the color that you have in the bottle. So there we have it. We have a base coat just done in whites. It's thinned, doesn't have to be perfectly opaque. That part of it is unimportant, really. You just need to have a base. Something's going to break up that black background a little bit. So we have this wonderful color in here. And this essentially is our base coat. And it will probably surprise you, but I'm not going to put another coat of white on this because I think I'm fine. We are going to start layering in some color. Now, I could spend hours putzing with all of these tones, but I don't have to. I'm going to establish, you're probably familiar with the term grisaille, which means the various shades of gray. Essentially, I'm going to be using that for this purpose. Hello, Shannon. I'm trying to see. And Peggy Davy. You have a greyhound. I love greyhounds. Would you undercoat the metallic gold for lettering on a brown? No. No, I don't think I would. If I were doing metallic lettering over top of this black, I wouldn't undercoat it. If I did want to put a color there, depending on the gold I was using, it would most likely be a red. I would put a red underneath it, especially if it's a high yellow gold. And my go-to for that's usually a country red because it's a little more opaque than most reds. But most of the time, under a brown, no, I wouldn't. I would just use the gold red over top of it. So the color that I used for this piece, I used Joyful Pink, which I thought was such a pretty color. It's a cool pink. It tends to lean towards the cooler temperatures, but it's a very nice pink. And particularly for this, because it's a little on the opaque side, just a little. And it is a very pretty color. And I wanted this sort of jewel-like tone to this. So I'm using a little bit of Joe Sonia's and a 1/2 inch angle. I'm going to be using a lot of this brush. And I'm going to blend this color out quite well because I want a smooth transition. There we go. And we're going to take this color into the lowest portion of this floral. So down deep into the lowest areas of these flowers. Just like that. And again, we don't have to be absolutely perfect with this. Just come back, pick up a little bit more. Down into those lower areas. Separate those petals. Lowest area. Separate the petal. And always remember, you don't have to get this done in one shot. You can come back in and put another coat in if it isn't colorful enough for you. isn't deep enough for you, you can come back in. You are not obligated to get it all done in one go. I like being able to come back and add more color. I want all the color, that deep color, towards the center of this flower, which is exactly where it's going, right there. Look at that. Down into the lowest sections of those petals, towards the center of that flower. Just like that. And this works up pretty quickly. So we've got a nice punch of color in there. And I want it fairly bright in there. We don't want it so gray and dim. We want it bright. So I'm going to dry this. So that we can come back in and do more. And each layer that you put in, that color gets a little richer and a little brighter. Gorgeous color. Joyful pink is such a pretty color. So once you've got the center done, you're going to come out and start putting that little bit of color into those outer petals, and where they overlap is where you're going to put the focus. Right there. Such a gorgeous color. Get that color in there so that you have separation, division from each of those petals. And when you're floating, that whole chisel edge, I don't turn my brush up on its tip. I get the whole chisel edge on the surface. And that helps you blend that color out, and it helps you walk that color out. I'm looking at my line drawing, and I think, no, I got it right. I missed a spot here. I actually overpainted it, but I can fix it, so it's not a big deal. There we are. Like anybody else, I lose things in the process of transferring line drawings on, and I missed right here. There's a little flip over in this petal right there, and I'm going to quickly stroke it in because it's affecting the petal underneath it. So there we go. So we have a turnover here with a little flip, and then this petal has that little, there we go. I just needed to separate these two petals. There. I missed that little flip that's in there. And so when I was shading, I lost the edge of my petal. There we go. Pretty, pretty. So we have some really dainty little petals in the center here. And I need a slightly darker shadow back there. So I'm going to deepen that. The return of the puppy. switch to a smaller angled shader. I'm going to go to a 3/8. And we're going to add some shading, some of that little bit of that pink to those center petals.
I'm here.
Right in here.
You might hear some chomping. She brought her bully stick down with her. Where's Renee? It's quiet in here. Thanks, Robin.
That should tell you an awful lot. When they missed you because of the noise level. So I'm just putting a little bit of that pink right at the base of those little petals at the front. Just a little U-shaped float right at the base here. They don't worry about getting it absolutely perfect. So we have a whole bunch of pink in places that we need it. I'm just going to deepen a couple of things here. Just because I can. There we are. I love the pink. I love the pink. So while that's drying, we're going to come down here and tackle those leaves. And the color that I'm using is a little bit of antique green. If you don't have antique green, you can use lush green. You could use avocado if you really want to. Any earthy green will do just fine. So get a little bit of antique green on my palette. And I'm going to rinse my round. And I'm going to thin out my antique green just a little bit with a little Joe Sonia's. And we're going to put color on pretty much the same way we did with the petals. I'm just going to lay a single coat of antique green right over that white. It doesn't have to be perfectly opaque. Primarily because we've got 3 other colors that are going over top of this. So this is just our base. So our mid value, which is our antique green, and this is probably my favorite green to use for any type of greenery, leaves, vines, tendrils. I love this green. It just has a really nice tone to it. And it sort of fits in with this vintagey botanical look that I wanted to achieve with this. And it's still a little bit transparent. So I can go over top of all of this white, and we still get this really nice green tone to everything. Easy peasy.
What is that called?
What?
When you do the gold border?
It's gilding.
Is it gilding?
Yep.
There was another name for it, though.
Cloisonne.
Cloisonne. Thank you. That was in my. It was in my head somewhere.
I've done this before. I've used it in a variety of things. I love using it for edging decoupaged pieces too. It's nice. It adds a really nice texture to things.
You need to paint in some little ants.
Some little ants, yes. Peonies have a waxy coating on the outside of the bud, and they need ants to eliminate it. The ants eat it, and it helps the flowers bloom. But it also acts like a food source for the ants. So, you know,
Win some,
win-win.
lose some.
It's a win-win for both the flower and the ants.
What size angle was that?
The one I'm working is a 1/2 inch. And I just realized that I didn't put any pink on the bud. So I'm going to put a little in now. I think what I love most about this particular style of painting or this technique is that none of it has to be perfect. That little blush of color, even if it's not absolutely dead on, is okay. So we have all our green in place. And I'm going to dry this. And then we're going to start putting in those flip overs. And this is where things start to take a little more shape. The brush that I'm using is that number 1 round. That's that smaller round. And some thinned warm white. Just going to add a little Jo Sonja's to that. And I just fill these in. I try to keep them as smooth as I can so that I don't have, a ton of brush marks in it. And I make sure that I paint right up to the other color so that it gives you a nice clean edge. Now, this technique is very forgiving. So if you whoopsie on something, if it's not absolutely perfect, if the lines aren't perfectly clean, it's okay. Because we're going to outline this with gold. So if things don't look absolutely spot on, don't beat yourself up over it. You're going to be able to tuck in all those little, little bobbles and wobbles and areas of imperfections that, perhaps would bother you. You're going to have plenty of ways to eliminate those little things that perhaps you're not so happy with.
Karen, excuse me. Karen Wilson's wondering, what is the purpose of a fast drying glaze?
The fast dry glaze gives the paint a little longer open time, meaning that you can work with it. It also acts almost like a lubricant to the paint, so the paint flows off the brush. You can thin your paint with it, meaning that you can make it a little bit more transparent without affecting the paint's ability to bond to the surface. If I were to take water and I thin my paint beyond, say, 40%, it compromises the paint's ability to stick to the surface. And we've all seen the results of that when you thin your paint to do line work. And then when you go to brush your varnish on, you end up taking off some of your line work. It's because you've taken away all of the binders, all of the things that make the paint stick to itself. Whereas if you were using a fast dry glaze, it gives you a chance to work with the paint. It gives you a chance to thin things out, move things around. It still closes up quickly, but it also acts as a binder. It gives your paint all the binder that it needs so it doesn't affect the integrity of the paint. Hopefully that helped. When paint companies make mediums, and I've had this discussion in various paint groups. I've watched paint groups, that paint furniture and things like that, and they're big proponents of adding mediums or textures or stuff to their paint in order to achieve a specific look. Which is fine if you are using a medium that is designed for the paint that you are using. However, if you are adding things to your paint that were not intended to be used in paint, it affects the chemistry of the paint. And so you can, to its detriment, by adding something that is inappropriate or not designed to work with acrylic paint, you can actually affect its longevity and its adhesion. So even though it may look fine right now, 6 months or a year down the line, it could start to peel or it could start to break in general, and you don't get the longevity. You don't get the durability that paint is supposed to have. So whenever I am working with paint, I highly recommend that if you're going to add something to it, look into whether or not the paint you're using, that if that company has a medium that will do what you want it to do. In this particular case, a fast dry glaze makes the paint transparent. It allows it to flow off the brush. It does a number of things for it, but it's designed to work with acrylic paint, and therefore it does not compromise the durability or the integrity of the paint. So you can make your paint do a whole bunch of things without making it fail. So I've got all the little flip overs painted in just with warm white. You don't have to do 101 things to this. It's just done with a little bit of warm white. And I think I missed a spot. I'm looking at my piece going, yep, I missed a spot. Right here.
Well, somebody from Venezuela
Hello.
says, oh, they provided a translation.
Okay.
Says, very good afternoon, heart. So I think it, from Merida, Venezuela.
Wow.
A huge hug.
Aw. Well, big hug back to Merita. Merita.
Buenos tardes, corazón.
Aw. Corazón.
I think that's what the...
Yep. Buenos tardes.
Yeah.
Good day. I have a dear friend that lives in Bolivia. And from the first day him and I met, we have been, mi corazón, means my heart. And it's just a term of endearment, which is so sweet.
Oh, there we go.
What?
JL's got a good question. What's the difference between fast dry glaze and a retarder then?
A retarder is designed specifically and only to extend the open time of your paint. And it seriously will delay the dry time depending on how much retarder you put in it.
Is it usually alcohol based?
No, it's water-based.
Is it water based?
Yeah.
Oh.
Retarder is just that. It retards the drying time, but a very long time. If you mix retarder in with your acrylic paint, actually put it in the bottle, it can stay wet for months, even if you leave the bottle open. It will take a long time. So the more retarder you put into your paint, the longer it will stay wet. A fast dry glaze is meant to lubricate the paint for the short term.
Can you use fast dry glaze for line work?
Yes.
And what brand of glaze are you using?
I am using this one, which is Joe Sonia's Fast Drying Glaze Medium. I love this one because I can make very thin layers of color without affecting its adhesion. I have diluted paint up to 80% with this without affecting how it bonds to the surface. So my line work stays in place, even if I'm working with very, very, very thinned out paint. That's the reason that I use this, because it will allow the paint to adhere to the surface. So even if you literally work the paint to the point where there's very little paint and only a little bit of pigment left, it'll still adhere. That's why I use it. I love the finish. I love how it makes the paint more durable. So we have, look at that. We've got all our little flip overs in. This flower's really starting to take shape. So at this point, we're going to start adding a little bit of shading to this flower. And we're going to do that with a little bit of metallic gold. Now, if you want to, you can go in there with a little bit of asphaltum. You know I love my asphaltum. So I'll show you what that's going to do. I love my asphaltum. It's a great color. It's going to give our pink just a slightly vintage feel. And I'm going to heavily thin this. We're not going to use it full strength. So just a touch of asphaltum and then thin it out. And you're going to go back in wherever you have that pink. And you're just going to put a little float of that asphaltum over top of it, just to tone it. It just gives our pink a nice little earthy feel to it. And we have a sleeping puppy.
She's sleeping.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
She finally spit out that bully stick. So that little bit of asphaltum, it just tones everything, just warms it up, brings it a little bit of earthy. I've always loved what asphaltum does for colors. It just tones them, deepens them. And that little bit of Joe Sonia's. Now, I use Joe Sonia's for creating faux finishes too. So I use it, even though it's a glazing medium, I use it as an actual glaze, like a faux finishing glaze. So it's very functional for that. And another thing it works really well for is when you're putting down your base coats. If you want to eliminate brush marks and whatnot, this will help eliminate those brush marks. It just gives the paint a little more fluidity and allows it to level. So you can get that nice, even, smooth base coats. Very little effort. Just makes the paint move nicely, if you know what I mean. So there we have a little bit of asphaltum tucked down in there. Don't forget to do those little petals too, those little ones down in here. They get the same treatment, a little bit of that asphaltum there just to tone that pink. And I missed one. Batting 1,000 today. Here we go. Nice. Now, I'm going to take a little of that asphaltum and I'm going to float right up against that little turnover, just like so, just so that I get a little contrast to the edge of it. I want to deepen that float right there. There we go. Alrighty. So at this point, I've done all of this fabulous shading in there. We've toned it a little bit so that we've got nice contrast and everything has that nice warm tone to it. I keep forgetting about our little bud over here. There's something about peonies at that stage when they're fully open. You ever notice they get this little browning at the edge of some of the flowers? And I kind of like to bring that in. So at this point, we're going to add some highlights to these petals. And I'm going to come in with my angled shader and some warm white. Blend it out well so that you get a nice transition. And you're going to come to the edge of the petal with that float. Brightest to the outside edge. And this is going to give your flowers that little bit of oomph. And it doesn't take much. Just bring that little bit of white out there. Doesn't have to be opaque. Take it out to the edge. Just like that. And when we've got that nice rich tone to these flowers, if you want them even brighter, do a second float. Bring it right out to the tip. and keep all of that brightest value right at the edge and to the tips of those petals. And this is why I did not worry about getting all of those flowers perfectly opaque. By allowing some of that black to show through, to not have that solid white, it just gives the flowers sort of a translucent effect. And so that little bit of white at the edge gives you the brightness that we need. But it creates that sort of translucent look of the petals. It's quite pretty. So I'm just going to finish up a couple of these petals back here. And again, I'm not worried about them being absolutely perfect, because they don't need to be. So there we are. And then I'll switch to a smaller angled shader to do those small ones in the center. Again, I'm only focusing the white out towards the edge of the petals and out to the point. Everybody's quiet. So now I have intentionally left all of those spaces between the petals, primarily because we're going to outline this in gold. So I didn't see the point in worrying too much about those little gaps, as we're going to fill them in anyhow. But that same attitude towards that single base color and then letting that transparency happen applies. So even if you're going to be meticulous and make sure that if you're not putting in that gold and you're filling in all of those spaces, that same thing still applies. That transparency, it just helps keep the flower from looking heavy and solid, and it gives it an air of lightness and translucence, which is so pretty. So a little bit on some of those turnovers just to keep them nice and bright. Here we go. I'm gonna put a little touch more over here. I really like this petal to be a little brighter. There we go. And I think I'm happy with that. So I'm going to do the same thing to my little bud down here, and then I got to paint the leaves on my bud. So I'm going to put just a little bit of that white on my little bud. And then I'm going to come down, and I just realized I missed these little leaves on the bud. I painted all the bigger leaves and didn't do these ones, so. There we go. I'm going to make sure that this is all well dry. And then we're going to talk about shading and highlighting these leaves. Now we're going to use, you can use plantation pine, you can use black green. If you don't have either one of those, you can go into your fluid acrylic and get some sap green. You just need a nice dark green. I have both plantation pine and black cream. And yes, they are very different colors, but for our purposes, they're going to work just fine. So I'm going to try a little plantation pine. And I'm going to take my 3/8 angle. I like the smaller angle for this one. And going to tip load. And we're going to shade up underneath the flower, right on the stem. A little too much liquid in my brush. There we go. That's better. So wherever the leaves are overlapped by the flower, we're going to put a little shadow in there. And where it overlaps the stem, and if it's not dark enough to suit, if you find that it's just not dark enough, there's no harm in putting a second coat. Everybody thinks you got to get it all done in one shot, and you really don't. So I'm going to separate these small petals, or leaves, I should say, on this calyx underneath this flower. And a little float at the top there.
If you weren't outlining this in gold, would you outline it like you do some flowers with your black gel pen?
Yes, absolutely.
With the squiggly lines.
With the squiggly lines, why not? This one, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I wanted something mixed media. I wanted something a little flashier, I guess is the term I'm looking for. And I wanted a little bit of bling, a little elegance, so I decided to go with gold. You could also outline this with your gold paint pen. There's nothing to say that you have to do this specifically with the dimensional adhesive and the foil like I'm doing, but you could do this quite easily with a gold paint pen. Especially some of the newer ones, the Deco foil or the Deco color gold paint pens are fabulous for that because the quality of the metallic is such. So I'm going to shade down the center vein of this leaf with that plantation pine. And I'm keeping that color quite strong. There we go. And then I'm shading into this leaf with that plantation pine as well. There's a nice little flip over on that leaf where it's sort of bent and it's a really nice shape. And then I'm going to shade underneath the bottom side of that with that as well. I really like when leaves are not perfect. I like when they've got some quirky shapes and forms and ruffles. It just makes everything a bit more interesting. And then we're going to separate those two leaves like that. Now this leaf here that's up underneath the floral has got a center vein as well, so we're going to float down that to here, and then this little section is on the same leaf, but we have to join them somehow, so there we go. And then I want my shadows for this one on the right side, so I'm going to bring a little of that plantation pine up the back side of these stems. I'm just using the chisel edge of the brush from the point. So you can just pull it down. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not looking for a perfect float.
I think Linda's right.
What's that?
Yeah, you guys can't be painting along with Tracy with all the chatting going on. I just got my petals base coated.
Well, the nice part is they can come back and watch this at any time.
Yeah.
Judy Cormier. Thank you, sweetie. I'm glad you like it. Oh, and Cindy Nezazon was at a paint-in.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I never paint. I always chat.
Charmaine Bannister, we're mesmerized. This is a fun piece to paint. And I think because you don't really have to be neat and tidy, you don't have to really pay a whole lot of attention to the minutia. I think just relaxing and putting color in here and there is a bit soothing, especially if you enjoy painting. It's soothing to just not think too much.
The weekend warriors are playing with their toys in the hills of the escarpment.
Oh,
Lots of booming over there.
that must be Karen Wilson, is it?
Yeah.
So I have a little bit of margarita. The reason I like this color, margarita, is because there's several colors that are close enough, if you know what I mean. And the margarita is a nice bright yellow green that works exceptionally well for highlighting this antique green in particular, because it's got a high yellow content. And it is not particularly opaque, which is another thing that I like about it. It's opaque enough. So it doesn't flatten things out, doesn't gray things out. Gives me nice bright highlight without flattening things. But another reason I like it is because it's an easy one to substitute. So if you are painting this piece and you don't have margarita, you can use matcha green. You could use sprout. There's a variety of greens that will work very, very well for this. So you don't have to go on the hunt for the perfect green. You can use what you have in your stash. And believe me, we all have a stash. My membership group got a look at my stash a couple of weeks ago. And then gave them a little tour of the studio, and
You gave a tour of your
it
studio?
was an impromptu thing. Well, it was actually pretty neat and tidy at the time, so can't say that right now. So
Where?
well, it's not bad.
No, I've seen worse.
Yeah, it has been worse. It was worse 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago, I had every single color, shade of red, orange, yellow out on my
Right on the
pink
desk.
on my
painting on.
desk. Yeah. So I'm going to show you a nifty little trick for putting in veins. And you can do it while you're highlighting. So I'm doing the center vein on this leaf, and I kind of float, and then I just chisel blend a little bit, but I leave a gap. Do you see the little gap in between? So a little float and a gap. A little float and a gap. So it instantly put some of those veins in. So I didn't really have to go back in and do them again. So it's an easy way to do things. And you can do it on either side. It doesn't have to be on the center vein. It can be done at the edge of the leaf too. So I can come out here to the edge, little float, leave a space, little float, leave a space. The only thing you have to remember is the heel of the brush has to always point back to the center vein of the leaf. And then you get that. See the leaves, the little lines? It just helps you create a little texture on your leaves with very little effort. So there's float. There's a float. And when I tap and pull it back, it's always coming back towards the center vein. So it helps you create that look easily.
Linda DeFranco.
Hi, Linda.
It's quite hard to get matcha green, so can margarita be used?
Absolutely.
I'm asking for Wednesday's class.
Yes. Margarita. Those are the colors that I will substitute easily. Margarita, olive green, any one of those high yellow greens will work just fine. My membership group is painting daffodils this week.
Daffodils?
Yes, we're doing Art Nouveau. And we're doing some daffodils with all kinds of fun techniques in it. So we're going to have a good time with that. They're also going to be doing some of this, but we have a few other cool things that we're doing too. So I think I'm just about done with these leaves. I do want to add a little brightness to the highlight on these leaves. And I'm going to do that by bringing in a little bit of warm white to that margarita, just a little. I don't want to make this white, but I want to add a brighter highlight in a few spots just to brighten.
Oof. Deb Bloomfield's son got out of surgery. They removed a 1/2-inch kidney stone.
Oh my gosh.
And apparently Deb, being Deb, called him a wimp. I gave birth to a 6-pound kid. Toughen up. Well then.
It's 1/2 inch, whatever.
Yeah, 1/2-inch kidney stone. Yeah. Owie.
Yeah, kidney stone is not an easy thing. They're painful as hell. Then again, so is childbirth. I had one in 23 minutes.
Were you late for the bus?
Well, I shouldn't say I had one in 23 minutes. I had a 43-minute labor.
Ah.
From first contraction to delivery.
Jeez. That's quick.
It was quick. Well, my first one was quick too. It was only 6 hours.
Who's that?
You
Oh.
were 6 hours. Dominic was 43 minutes.
No jokes there.
No. Yeah.
It's you. No.
I read an article the other day that was talking about, how women, that cursing actually when you're in labor actually is supposed to help.
Yeah, apparently cursing increases blood pressure.
Well, it actually, I guess, elevates a number of things, including the body's ability to produce endorphins.
Oh,
Painkiller, right?
Yeah.
So, but apparently swearing during childbirth is helpful. And that explains an awful lot to me. Because I yelled at the ambulance driver the night your sister was born. And you can ask Karen about this. I asked him if he was aiming at every pothole on the street, because it certainly felt that way. So, yes. I'm not one for profanity, but on occasion, when it warrants it, I can be pretty good at it. And that night I was exceptional.
she's an Olympian when it comes to cursing.
When I choose to. Not that I do it very often, thankfully, but yes. When I'm in the appropriate
Walmart is
situation.
fair game.
I do not curse in Walmart.
Yeah, you do.
Okay, I don't often curse at Walmart.
You don't often go to Walmart.
That's true. I will go with that as well.
So therefore, you always curse at Walmart.
No, not always. I have on occasion been very well behaved.
I'd love to see you paint a water droplet sometime.
Oh, okay. I could do that.
That was Kathy McAllister.
Water droplets. Kathy's part of my membership group. So Kathy, there is actually an instruction sheet in the members download section on creating water droplets and painting water droplets and gems and shiny domed surfaces. So if you want to have a look at that, and yes, and I absolutely, we can do that at some point. I'd be more than happy to do that. So we have leaves. I am, however, going to deepen some of this shading. It needs to be a little bit darker.
You're not the only one that Walmart makes you cuss.
No.
No.
No. I'm in good company. I don't often go to Walmart because I get very frustrated with rudeness, and I get very frustrated with people being unkind, and that frustration often leads to me speaking my mind, which is not always a good thing.
Molly Ann, she was not banned from Walmart. She's not allowed to go to Walmart unsupervised.
No, I can honestly say I have not been banned from Walmart, but and that supervision is required by my family, not by anybody else.
Or police escort.
Or police escort. Hey, I'm not that bad.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What is the name of the writing background stamp, please?
That one. Just give me 2 shakes here. It is. Sorry. Did I wake you, madam? I must have. I woke the princess.
She does not like being woken up suddenly.
She is not a morning person either.
Suits.
This is one of my Tim Holtz cases. I'm moderately obsessed. The stamp that I'm using is this one. It's Ledger Script CMS 241 is the item number, and these ones are from Stampers Anonymous. This is the Tim Holtz collection, but it's called Ledger Script is the name of the stamp set. This is one of my favorites. You can tell because it's not on the card, but that's the one. My stamps, especially my Tim Holtz one, I keep them on the card that they come on, and then they go into this little filing system. So I keep all of my Tim Holtz stamps together, and this is how I use them. This is a card keeper. You can get this one at Michael's. Actually, I think they're like $14. They're worth it. Worth it. Every penny.
Maze just woke Raffin up.
Baby. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you. I'm getting kisses now. Puppy kisses. But no, you can't go under there. No, Maze. Maze. I know you would love to get your mouth on that, but you can't. I'm sorry. She's looking at me like, that's not fair. So if that's the stamp that you want, is that Tim Holtz script. That's what it's called, Ledger Script. I'm a fan. I love that one. So I've got a little bit of black green.
Really?
I want to deepen this shading just a touch.
That was Miss Maze that moved the camera for you guys. Just so you know.
She's just relocating things for us. How nice. So I'm using a little bit of black green. I just want to deepen a couple of shadings under here on some of the leaves. And then I think I'm happy with that. It doesn't have to be super perfect because we're going to be doing a few things over top. So,
Oh.
there we go.
Speaking of more classes, I'd like to see bearded irises.
A bearded iris. I've done a bearded iris, but I've never taught it live.
Hey.
So we could do that.
There we go. So we got a water droplet.
We could add a water droplet to the bearded iris.
There you go.
So I've got a little bit of thinned margarita, and I'm adding just a little touch of warm white to it. Not to make it particularly lighter, but just to make it a little bit more opaque. And I'm thinning it out with some Jo Sonias. And I do usually do this with leaves anyway. In this case, I'm just going to add just the soft outline. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Did I miss what's for dinner? Soup.
We're having soup. Zuppa Toscana.
My favorite. Gotta be smoky and spicy.
Yep.
And creamy.
My husband is playing in a darts tournament today. And
He will have a burger.
He will have a burger, which means that he's not going to have much of an appetite when he gets home. So I've decided that instead of making a big meal and discovering that he can't eat it, we make
Light meal.
a lighter meal. So tonight we're having zuppa toscana.
Are we going to finish off those Hawaiian rolls?
Yes, that's the idea.
Yeah.
So
I like the Hawaiian rolls. Mm-hmm. Or what are those ones actually called? Brioche?
They're just brioche rolls. That's all.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Brioche. And some places call them Hawaiian rolls. And some places just call them dinner rolls. So.
What do you get with the $9.99 monthly membership?
That's just access to all of the videos, including the members' videos.
Yeah. Just the videos.
Yeah. With the main members video or membership, it's live classes, free projects, free patterns, a monthly live class. We do
And a weekly live.
We do a whole bunch of fun things.
Members get a whole bunch of stuff, but the videos membership just gets access to all the membership videos.
Yeah.
All the previous lives, all the previous instructional videos.
Yeah. Okay, so I think I need a brighter line on this leaf.
Are you using kale or baby spinach? Baby spinach!
Yeah, I use baby spinach. My husband doesn't like kale.
Kale and zuppa toscana?
Yeah, original recipe is supposed to have kale in it.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That'd be too earthy.
Oh no, it's very good. I like it. I just don't. I don't put as much. That's all.
Oh, okay.
So
it'd be like putting Swiss chard in it.
Swiss chard. I've done that.
It's just,
I put spinach and Swiss chard. It just needs a good green. And baby spinach is great. Yeah.
Spinach is fine.
Okay. So it's time to add a little more bling to this. So I'm going to clear off my palette again.
What is the fee for the full membership? It actually has changed.
I think it's 29 something. I'm not sure.
I think YouTube
if
upped all their
it.
stuff. I can't remember, but I'll check.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second.
And if you do join the membership, the other thing you have to remember is that if you're going to get access to anything is go to the website and set up an account there too. Because that is where we house all of the downloadable material that the members get. So, and you can't access it if you don't have an account. So you have to set up an account there as well. So I'm going to dry this.
I have to
really
do it
well.
on the laptop. Excuse me.
And then we're going to add a little bit of bling. And one of the things that I love about this particular technique is using a little bit of that gold on the flower. So I'm going to use my 1/2-inch angle and a little bit of Joe Sonia's, and we're going to use a small amount of gold on the brush, not a ton. And we're going to blend that out to float. You want to really blend this out. You do not want a bar of gold. So we're going to put down in the center of this flower, in these areas here, you're going to put a float of gold. It is not a solid gold, but it adds a nice little shimmer in the center of those petals. I don't know if you can see that on camera.
How do I get to the membership stuff? There we go, memberships.
Yeah.
Memberships. Let's check out.
Yeah, YouTube just changed that recently. Again. They changed
Okay,
those.
so the create with Tracy videos is $6.99 Canadian.
Canadian or
$6.99
$6.99 Canadian. Yeah.
$6.99 Canadian. And the Creating with Tracy, that's the one where you get all the videos, the members only lives, exclusive discount codes, free project sheets and patterns.
Yeah.
Right. So $6.99, you just get access to the videos and all the emojis and
Yeah.
loyalty badges and stuff. The Creating with Tracy, you get all the same stuff as the previous one, plus the members only lives and members only classes.
Yeah.
Discount codes and free projects, patterns, and whatever mom decides to toss in there.
I do a lot of free printables too.
Yeah.
I like doing printables. So I'm just putting a little float of that thinned gold deep inside the flower. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but it just adds a little sparkle to things. A little sparkle? Just a little sparkle. But it also gives that pink a nice richness. There it is. You can just barely see it. It is subtle, but it's worth doing because it just gives everything this nice little glimmer. And it ties the flower very nicely to the background. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to do a little bit of work in the center of the flower, which I really like this part. I'm going to use that #1 liner. And in the center of the flower, there's a whole bunch of little comma strokes. And we're just going to stroke those in with that 24 karat gold.
There's a sweet kale?
Yeah.
What? There's a sweet kale?
There's sweet baby kale too, and I love that.
Sweet baby kale.
I
It doesn't
think-
have that.
No, it
Tart-
doesn't have that cabbagey, that heavy sulfur flavor.
Yeah.
To me, that's what kale tastes like. Tastes more like a cabbage than a,
Okay.
which I find a little
But
strong.
there is sweet kale.
Yep.
Hmm.
So I'm just painting in those little comma strokes with that 24 karat gold. And you can really see that bling in there now. So I'm going to dry this, and then we're going to do the fun stuff. I love this part. So earlier in the week, I posted that the product that I'm using was available on Dick Blick. I love this stuff. This is Miction Relief from Pebeo. It's available on Dick Blick. DickBlick.com. They also carry it in their retail stores. So if you have one near you, this is a really cool product. And you just squeeze it out of the tube and you trace the various elements, which is where that dark line comes in very handy, because now you have the ability to separate all of these petals, and you can fill in those spaces quite easily. So if it looked a little dark and a little chunky, it's all going to go away at this point. So you're going to outline all of the elements of these petals, all of the turnovers, all of the curves. And I like to start from the center and work my way out. That way you're not having to put your hand in the adhesive. Now this is essentially a glue. It's a dimensional adhesive. And it works really well. You can create your texture. So if any of these little things, like these little indentations and whatnot in the petals, have kind of gotten lost, you can put them back in. If you want to add elements, maybe a little curlicue at the tip of a petal, you can do that. What?
My microphone's off. Are you mentioning anything about New Orleans?
No. So you can trace that in. Just just like so. And I love how this looks. I just think that this is such a fun technique. Now, doing this dimensionally, it just gives it a little extra, I don't know, there's just something about it. But you could, as I said, you could do this with your gold paint pen. If you prefer, just fill in all that border with a gold paint pen would work just fine.
What is it? Where can you get it?
This is called Pebeo Jadeo. There is a link on my Facebook page, on my regular Facebook page. It is available at Dick Blick. You can order it online, and they also have it in their retail stores. So if you happen to live close to one. It's also available on Amazon. It's a pretty nifty product. You can use it for a variety of things. I've used it as a barrier to do a true faux cloisonne, where you're filling in all of these spaces with transparent color or with glass paint, what have you. I've used it to do lettering. And before we call it a day today, I'm going to show you a really cool technique using this that you can have a lot of fun with. Now, my group has done this before. We did this on a piece called French Orchids. And it is super easy to do. If you can butter toast, you can do this.
I can't butter toast.
You don't butter toast. You don't eat toast.
Exactly.
And then
How long is the open time on this?
this will stay dry or stay wet for about 15 to 20 minutes.
Got plenty of time.
So you've got plenty of time to work. And I'm going to put a nice little border on my little bud over here. And then I'm going to set this aside to dry. You can actually force this dry. So if I wanted to, I can take my little heat gun and run that. The neat thing about this is that it stays eternally sticky. So if I am working on something like this and I forget about it, it's going to stay sticky for quite a while. It is white when you put it on, but it dries clear, which makes, gives you lots of time to do things. So you can force it dry. But I'm going to set this one aside for a moment because I want to show you another technique while I've got this out. So here I have my painted piece. I've already done a few things with this. I gotta grab my diamond stencil. I wanted to show you this because I just think that this is a cool technique. I'm going to run a bead of tape across the top here. Just like we did with the first step of this piece. I'm going to put a piece of tape right here, just so that I create a nice little line across the top. And I'm going to position my stencil, much like I did with the first one. I think I'll do it on the other side. Okay, so I'm only going to do a couple of these, but I want you to see how this technique works because it's pretty cool. So I have this mixation relief. You can take the top off of this and you can squeeze out a little of that adhesive onto your palette. And you don't need much. I'm going to close that and I'm going to put the cap back on. And then you're going to need a palette knife. And you're going to pick up a small amount of that adhesive on your palette knife. And you're going to do this. So just apply a little bit of that adhesive right over your stencil. So when you remove your stencil, what it leaves behind is this. So I have that diamond pattern on the surface. So when I dry this, it will dry perfectly clear. but it will still be sticky and tacky. So once it's completely dry, then I can apply gold leaf to it. I can apply gold foil to it. I can use embossing powders. I can use all sorts of nifty things on this. But it will dry crystal clear, and then I can literally stencil any design pattern I want onto a surface and then gold leaf it or use a gold foil or an embossing powder. So it can give you a slightly raised element. So you can adhere so many different things to this. So I'm going to hold this here while it dries and speed the process up a little bit, just so that you can see how clear it becomes. And it really doesn't take all that long. If you want to speed it up some more, turn off the heat and just put a fan on it, and it will dry very, very quickly. I'm looking at our piece over there, the one that we just did, and it's drying rather rapidly. The thing you have to remember about working with something like this is that the thicker it is, the longer it's going to take for it to dry. And you want it to be completely dry. So no white can be showing. You cannot be able to see any of the white. No milkiness, no nothing. It should be completely clear. And then once it is, it's ready to go. You can do whatever you need to do to it. So, but I wanted to show you what this looks like using that little diamond stencil that we used. And we're almost there. Looking over at our flower, and it's drying very quickly. If you put it on too soon and it's still white, it'll actually end up pulling it off, and you don't want that.
Will water clean it off your stencil?
No, water will not. I use a little bit of rubbing alcohol or a little bit of Goo Gone. If it's dry, you have to use the Goo Gone or the alcohol, but you can wipe it off with a damp cloth and then rinse off with a little cool water. If it's still wet, you can clean it right away. Water will take it off.
What is the difference between gold leaf and gold foil? I got this one.
Okay, go ahead.
Gold foil is actually a compound of tin. There's no actual gold in it. Gold leaf is actual gold.
Yeah. And you are right to a certain extent.
Oh, no.
To a certain extent. Gold leaf is actually metal. It can be either tin, some are made out of brass, some are just oxidized metals of a sort. But they are also made out of gold. Some are made out of gold, and some are made out of silver. But almost all of them are made of metal. Gold foil, in this particular case, is not made out of metal. It's actually made out of acetate and acrylic, which this is what we're talking about. This is a gold foil. So it's an acetate sheet with a gold pigment or metallic pigment attached to the back. So that's what we're using for this one. And it's super easy to work with. So gold foil, you're going to use it, the matte side or the silver side down, and you're going to lay it onto the area where you put the adhesive, and you're going to burnish it, and then you're going to remove it. And it strips the metal off of the acetate and leaves it on the adhesive.
Voila.
So we're going to be doing this type of technique to create that gold foil border around the edges of the flower. But I wanted you to see that you can actually use that adhesive because of its viscosity, the thickness of it. You can push it through a stencil. So if you wanted to do a specific design look using that gold foil, you absolutely can do that. So ours, as you can see, it's getting there. It's almost dry. The heavier areas where borders join, obviously take a little bit longer.
Can you seal over gold leaf? Yes.
Yes, you can. In fact, if you're using a metal leaf for this, highly recommend that you do seal it.
You don't want it to oxidize.
Because it is a metal, it will oxidize. That's one of the nice things about this is that it does not oxidize. So you can use it without sealing it. But we will get to that as well.
Seal with an acrylic resin.
You can seal it with an acrylic resin, or you can seal it with just a matte spray. I use a matte spray on mine. It does affect the sheen of the metal a little bit. Doesn't change it so drastically, but...
I oopsied.
Did you oopsie?
Yeah, I did a 24 karat gold leaf helmet.
Oh. Okay.
Well, it was for suicide prevention
Okay.
ride. Called the Lean On Me ride.
Yep.
Made sense.
Yep.
So I put Lean On Me in an adhesive all around the helmet. And then I gold leafed it. And where I oopsied was one letter I didn't seal. Yeah, it was the N.
Okay.
And then I used a solvent-based sealer.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it kind of oopsied that.
A little bit.
The person who won it from the raffle got a hold of me, and I fixed it for him.
Oh, good.
Could you use this with glamour dust?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, there you go, Kathy.
I've used this adhesive with so many different things. One, it's a very nice quality adhesive. It has a slight odor to it. It's not horrible, but it has a glue scent to it. It does work very, very well. Any odor dissipates as soon as it dries, so it doesn't cling to the air, doesn't hang around for hours or days on end. The only thing I will say, this has that little point on it. If you're not going to use it for a long period of time, take the top off, wipe off the adhesive from the top, put a piece of plastic over it like saran wrap, take your nozzle, rinse it in warm water, make sure that all of the tip is empty of adhesive, and then store the both of them, put the cap back on and store the both of them in a Ziploc bag. All it does is just prevent this from getting clogged. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time trying to get the adhesive out of it before you can use it again.
Can the Pebeo be thinned with water for flat, non-dimensional gilding?
No. However, they do have a liquid gilding. I like a liquid gilding paste that is thin so that it can be brushed on or used in other aspects. This one is intended for dimensional use.
Boom.
So, we're going to add a stencil and we're going to add a stamp to this, and it'll give us a chance to allow that to dry. You know, I have a minor obsession with cancellation stamps, so of course I had to use one in this. So I'm going to slightly overlap the leaf. I don't want the whole thing on there. I just find that this is kind of boring just to have it all there, and then I don't want it straight. So I always cant things slightly and take it off of the page a little. I just find that it gives things more character. So I'm going to use my same stencil brush and that same gold paint. I'm just going to use a little bit more of it this time around. And I'm going to work in a circular fashion and work right over top of the leaf and the stamping, all of that fun stuff. I'm going to work right over top of it. And then give it a moment to dry. You can always have a look, and if it doesn't look opaque enough for you, you can do it again. I generally only do it once. So I've got my little cancellation stamp down there in the corner. And then I have my gold paint, and I'm going to grab my mini brayer, and I'm going to roll out some of this gold paint because I'm going to put my favorite stamp in it. So I have my cancellation stamps. I like this oval shaped one. So I'm going to load that up, and I'm going to pop one of them. Where do I want it? I want it over here. On and off. I don't want it full on. I always like to have things off the surface a little bit. And then I've got this one. This is another favorite. And pick up a little bit of gold paint. And again, I prefer not to have them fully inside. It just makes things look a little more interesting. And then a little bit down there. And I think that's sufficient. So I've got a cancellation stamp here, a slightly different one there, and another one down here. This one is a little too bright for me. I'm sitting here and I'm looking at it and I keep thinking, that one's a little too bright. So what am I going to do? This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a little bit of black paint, just a little. Thin it out a little bit. Lots of water, lots of glaze. I don't want this to be solid. And I'm going to brush a little bit of that black over top. Just over this white one because I find it a little bright. So I'm just going to tone it down with a little bit of black. And our flower is almost dry. Just a few little spots there where it's not quite clear. And it's always where I join a line, it's just a little heavier in those places. So we'll just give it a little longer. But in the meantime, I'm going to talk about tape. I had said earlier that there was a way to remove tape so that you do as little damage to your surface as possible. Now, this was base coated this morning, and I added the tape this morning, literally a few minutes after I finished base coating it and after it was dried. So I'm going to undo my tape here so we can do this as simple as possible. There we go. So when you're removing tape from a painted surface, and I see this all the time, people figure, oh, I'll just whip it off. The faster I take it off, the better. There is a technique to remove tape so that you do as little damage to your painted surface as possible, and this is it. Fold your tape back onto itself like so. So it's at a 45-degree angle, or 90 degree, but 45 is the easiest. Hold your surface down and then pull the tape back on itself. Like this. It reduces the amount of surface tension that you have on that fresh paint.
I thought you were just going to do that Velcro commercial.
Yeah. No.
Just pull it really fast.
No. If you fold it back on itself and just don't do it in, one solid jerk. Just pull it back, gradually pull it off.
Nice and slow.
Nice and slow. It reduces that tension on the surface so that you don't end up pulling off all that fresh paint. Just like that.
How do you clean a brayer?
Oh, I got to show you that because it's fun.
I didn't think it'd be fun, but
I think it's fun. And I have to thank Sandy McTeer for that because there's my brayer. I mean, it looks like a dog's breakfast most of the time. And for years, I would just throw the thing in my water basin and then I would fight with it to try and clean it. And then Sandy, in her infinite wisdom, showed me how to get it apart. You just hold the roll in your hand and push with your thumb on that. So you can take this out, throw it in a dish full of rubbing alcohol or brush cleaner or what have you, and clean it off. And then you don't have to fight with the handle. And then it goes back together the same way. Super easy. So at the end of the day, I will take all my brayers apart and I will throw these into a dish with some brush cleaner and let them soak for a little bit. And then I'll take them out and scrub them with a kitchen scrubby. And then let them dry and then snap them all back together again. Super easy. And
what was that? The Happy Face sponge? Scrub Daddy.
Scrub Daddy.
Yeah.
I love Scrub Daddies. So this is what I meant about having that little bit of tape around the outside edge. It kind of frames things up a little. And it just gives it, there's a nice continuity to it. Gives it a little interest back there. And it's not a hard border. If I drew a line around it, it would be a hard border. This is a little softer. And it just gives it a really nice look.
Still waiting for that.
Yeah, there's a few spots there that it's just not dry, but I don't want to make a mess of it.
Also don't want to cook it.
I also don't want to cook it, exactly. But it won't take that long. So while I'm doing this, I can tell them about the giveaway today.
Do you do your own framing?
Yes and no. I usually buy just simple basic frames and choose mats and whatnot accordingly, but anything major I will take to be professionally framed. But most of the time I would just some small stock frames. I usually buy them when places like Michael's and whatnot have sales on frames. I'll buy a variety of standard sizes because I usually work in standard sizes. So in this case, this is a piece of 1/8 MDF. Perfect for framing. I'll just seal both sides of it.
How do you clean your other brushes?
Oh, that could take a while.
Yeah.
I have a lot of different things different ways that I clean them. Stencil brushes I clean with hand sanitizer, unless it's a natural hair stencil brush, and then I clean it with Jack's Studio Soap, which is one of my favorites. Oh, I know something I wanted to mention. The new Decor colors that just came out are now available on the Decor website.
Hey.
If you want to order them. And if you look under the description of the video today, I have a link for you with a discount code. So if you're looking for those new colors, there is a discount code there. And all you have to do is go to decor.com through that link. When you check out, hit that discount code. It'll give you, I think it's 10% off your whole order.
Except for Canadians.
Except for Canadians, because Canadians can't shop on decor.com. They don't ship to Canada, but I will say that Decor's distributors will have the new colors very soon.
Very.
As soon as they start shipping, which is very soon. Story of my life, waiting for paint to dry. Or in this case, adhesive. So almost there. There's just a couple of little spots right there. Not quite dry. Don't want to ruin this, so...
One of the gals wanted to know if it could be used on a lighter colored background.
Absolutely. It would be elegant done on a white or cream. You could do it on a pale blue or gray. It would be very nice on gray. The only thing you have to change up is perhaps some of the colors. If you want more contrast, you'd have to go with a darker color for the stamping. And you could change up the metallic very easily. Move it to any one of the metallic colors would work really well. And just adapt your flower accordingly.
Why do you seal MDF? I thought that was the bonus of MDF, that you didn't have to seal it.
I usually seal it. I add my sealer to my base color, so I seal it regardless. But in the end, I seal at the end. In my prep, depending on the type of MDF. There are some that actually pebble quite badly the minute you hit them with anything wet. And in that case, I usually just use a little bit of sealer added to my base color, just out of habit, but I do that to every surface regardless.
Lori Fife is heading to Florida next week.
What's that?
Lori Fife is heading to Florida.
Oh my goodness.
We're almost done. We're just waiting for...
Just wait for glue to dry.
Glue to dry.
The giveaways this week are Dynasty Black Gold specialty brushes. We have 3 sets of Dynasty wave brushes to give away. They're a 4 brush set, I believe. There's some nice specialties, an angle, a flat, a bright. Beautiful brushes. And then we also have a stencil in there, courtesy of the Stencil Studio. And we have a really nice pencil set, professional pencil set from Tombow. And then, of course, we always throw in a few things as well. So we've got those 3 giveaways together. Today. Oh, this is so frustrating, waiting for those 2 spots to dry. But it's getting a little hot from that thing, so... what I'll do is this is dry enough, so we'll start down here, and by the time we get to the rest of it, it'll be ready. One of the things that I really love about using this deco foil, I wanted to show you the one I've been using. It's this. This one is for fabric, and it says for fabric and paper, but I use this on everything. I love this product. It works really, really well. It's from iCraft. You can find it on Amazon. It comes in a variety of colors, not just gold. You can get it in copper, brass, bronze. It comes in a Venetian type gold, like a reddish gold, which is really pretty. And then it comes in other colors as well. So blues, pinks, and greens, things like that. It's a really cool product. And I like this because even though this doesn't look like there's a whole lot left on it, it'll go quite far. So I can just position it and then burnish it with my fingertip. And then I can go back in if there's a spot that didn't quite take as much as I'd like. I can go back and just rub a little more on. So it gives you that really nice high reflectivity. It's got a really nice glossy finish to it. And you can do this in a very controlled manner and do it very carefully if you want to, or you can lay the foil over the whole thing and then come back in and fill in little areas. The areas that are still not quite dry have a tendency to stick a little firmly to the leaf. So I'm trying to avoid hitting anything that's still not completely dry. But you can go around and just use the pressure of your fingertip to add foil in areas that, perhaps didn't quite take. I love that you can manipulate this foil quite nicely. And one use does not mean it's all gone. You can continue to use this until there's absolutely nothing left on this foil. And it's super easy to work with. So one roll of this will last quite a long time because you can do so much with it. And it takes so little effort to put that gold on. So look at that. So we're getting that really pretty flash of gold on the edges of this flower. It has nice bling. It has very nice bling. I love the look of this. And I also love that it is so easy to work with. So we've got a couple of spots in here where we're still, perhaps not 100% dry, so I'm trying to be careful. There we go. Now, once you have all of the adhesive covered, it's done. You don't have to really worry too much about anything else for this. If you want a good seal on it, you can apply your matte spray to this before you put your adhesive down. But the metallic itself does not need to be sealed. So look how simple that is. Now, if this was completely dry and I wasn't worried about pulling off some of the adhesive, I could lay the whole sheet on it and be done. But I really like the kind of broken look that this gives you at times. So there we are. A little bit down there, and I think we're just about done. I think. Got almost all of it. Very pretty. So we have a nice gold border around everything. I kind of like those little seams, those little areas where the adhesive pools a little bit, where you get dots. When they flatten out, you get this really nifty, almost welded appearance to it. So it does add very nicely to the overall effect. This is such a pretty method for doing a variety of things. I've done this with decoupage. I've done this just strictly with paint. I've done this using embossing powders and a variety of other mediums. And it just adds a really nice level of dimension to things. And that gold just adds a little more elegance to a really pretty piece. All those layers of the gold. I love adding gold in different sheens, and it gives things so much interest. So we used a very light application of the gold in the stenciling in the background. And then we went a little heavier with the stamping we used in here, and heavier again with that stencil down there. And then we really went to town with all of this really glossy, high sheen metallic. And any little empty spots or spots that you feel aren't quite what they should be, you can go back in and just burnish a little bit in a few places. And you'll know if you've got it, because you'll hear it. It sticks to the paper. It sticks to the foil. So I just love how this finish looks. So the product that I use to do that dimensional is this, the Jadeo Mixation Relief. I love this stuff. And then the foil that I used is this one. There's usually 5 or 6 sheets. I think it's 5 sheets in each one of these tubes. They will last you quite a while. I think the last time I bought this was about a year ago. And I'm still working off the original 5 sheets. And I've done a fair number of projects with it. So it is an easy product to work with. Again, I said it comes in a variety of colors, metallics. You can even get some that have textures, which are pretty cool too. So deco foil and your Jadeo. And then if you want to sign this, you can... She closed the door for you. You can sign this with your metallic gold pen. I'm going to sign mine with my gold pen, if I can find it. I catch up on some of the
Chat.
on the chat here. Boys, oh boys, I got way behind it talking. So I've got my gold leaf pen. Oh my gosh. There it is. Good gravy, Marie. And because I've painted this in gold, I want to sign it in gold. So there we go. My little scribblature at the bottom of the page. And there we have it. Peonies in gold.
Yay.
Yay! I love this. I just think it's such a pretty piece. So Renee is going to switch the camera around.
Maybe turn on my microphone.
That would be helpful. Yeah.
Where are you going? Come here.
What other adhesive can you use? For this type of dimensional effect, using an adhesive, to get that dimension, this is about the only one I've ever seen that actually has that dimension. Mona Lisa used to have a really great product in a pen, like a marker. They also have a tape that's very cool that you can use for gold leaf. But I have a preference for this particular one. I find that this one works best for this particular technique. However, having said that, I have no problem telling you to try something different. The gold paint pen that I use just for signing my name also has a really nice sheen to it, and it will work just as well to do those gold trims and whatnot on things. If you want that heavy mirror effect that you see here, there are a couple of different brands out there that provide you with that mirrored look or that chrome look, and one of them is Molotov. Molotov makes a metallic marker that produces that almost a foil effect that is excellent, and it comes in a variety of colors as well. The only downside to that particular product for me is its availability. For us, it's very difficult to find. However, you can get them on Amazon.com. We don't often see them on Amazon.ca, but you can get them on Amazon.com. And I do believe that Dick Blick in the US stocks them as well. So if you are looking for a nice alternative, highly recommend the Molotov pens. On Amazon.ca, this one has very quickly become a favorite of mine. This one is called Let's Resin, and this one is a chrome marker. So it provides a gold finish with that high sheen, that almost polished metal look. And this one is quite affordable. They come in sets of 3. You have a silver, a copper, and the gold. I love this one. It is available on Amazon.ca and on Amazon.com, and it's called Let's Resin. It's designed to work with resin projects, but this one is a liquid chromium, and they are fabulous. So if you're looking for that high gloss, this one, and they do come in a variety of sizes as well.
All right, let's see if I got the wheel to work.
Yay, he's got the wheel.
Oh, that's a big wheel.
Holy Moses, that's a big wheel. Judy Thacker in there? Yes, she is. I just saw Judy Thacker's name tucked in there in the yellow.
I need a pen.
Ooh, I got blue stickies. You do. So as I said, your giveaways this week are courtesy of Dynasty, Tombow, and the Stencil Studio. So there's some really nice stuff in that little giveaway. Plus, as always, we throw some fun stuff in there too.
Let's see what happens.
And we're going to see who they go to. So it's pretty simple to get your name on the wheel. Just join us in the chat. Say hi. Hit the share button, the subscribe button. I'll just hit all the buttons.
Lori Coates.
Lori Coates.
One. Here comes number 2.
Oh, that's an excellent point. Kathy McAllister, Nuvo Stick glue works as well for gilding. I'm going to have to try that one. I've never used it.
Linda Rodenberg.
Nice. So if your name is drawn for one of the giveaways during one of our lives, please go over to the website at tracymoreau.net and either click on the Contact Us button or on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner of the screen and send us your shipping information, please. If we don't have that shipping information and the item is not claimed within 2 weeks, it goes back in the bin.
And last but not least,
we got one more.
and Miss Kathy Barnett.
Nice. Awesome. So as I said, make sure you skip over to the website, click on the Contact Us button or on the little speech bubble in the lower right-hand corner and send us your shipping information so we can get your goodies out to you as soon as possible. So Lori, Linda, and Kathy are our winners this week. So next Saturday, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to be playing with some bright and festive colors. I think with the grim and dull and dim look that the weather's been giving us lately, we need a little bit of heat. And so we're going to be doing something with hot peppers. So we're going to have a little bit of fun with that and some distressing techniques. And just overall, we're going to have a great time. We're going to do a little dimensional work on that one as well. So come and join us. We're right here, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time every Saturday. We go live both here on Tracy Moreau Live and on my YouTube channel. So come and join us. We have a great deal of fun. We always have some great giveaways, and we always manage to have a few laughs, whether it was intentional or not. So, and thank you so much for joining us every week like you do. We appreciate it. And everybody have a great weekend, and we love you. Please stay safe.
And pet your dog.
Pet your dog.
I gotta press this button.
That button.
If only we would turn off the microphones at the right time.